SG Reads.
Hello fellow travelers, my name's SG and welcome to the channel. Before we start, I would like to say thank you all for watching my last Batman ARG based on the Bat ARG. I really do appreciate it and feel like it's one of my better done videos. I really enjoy it. And from that video actually I got a lot of people requesting stuff, one such as Red Ras Garden, sorry if I'm butchering your name, who suggested I do the Arkham tapes. I checked them out and I gotta say I'm a big fan of it so far. I'm really enjoying it, have really gotten into it, and I thought I could do a video about it today because since it's still kind of fresh to me. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Let's get started, shall we? But before we start, I would like to say please leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below. I'd really appreciate it. It really helped me out and lets me know that you really do like this content. Maybe I'll do more ARGs down the line and more comic book stuff too as it goes. Alright, let's get started, shall we? The Arkham tapes was created by the Bat Feed and started 2 years ago with the Arkham tapes Joker, which consisted of Joker being in the middle of a therapy session and ultimately hunting down his therapist and doing God knows what. We just hear screaming at the end. And after that we do get a series of different videos, each one more interesting than the last. For Waylon Jones, aka Killer Croc, we have this idea of him being a mutant, and they do give a neat twist to him having a southern accent, because in the comics and in cartoons they do say he grows up in the Deep South where he was considered a monster. We then get Man-Bat, which is given a more body horror-esque kind of vibe, where he is slowly turning into the Man-Bat thanks to the DNA of Killer Croc. An interesting take on it and very unique to it in its own sense. We then get Two-Face, which from the chemical of Man-Bat, enhanced by Hugo Strange, they make a formula that does God knows what to different people, and in Two-Face's or Harvey Dent's situation, it separates the two personalities, Harvey Dent and Two-Face, who in this one doesn't really have a name just yet, and just shows the difference between them, the light, gentler side and the aggressive side that has a bit of a traumatic past about his father. Leading on with Hugo Strange going on to more, we go to Clayface. Clayface being an actor who accidentally, well not accidentally, has harmed some of his co-stars in his latest movie, was sentenced to Arkham Asylum for insanity. Hugo Strange gets his hands on him and injects him with this chemical again, but this time it disintegrates him. It makes his body decay fast into a puddle of goo, and this goo is sentient still. There's a mind in there, but we have no idea how much of the original man is in Clayface. All we know is that he does remember certain things, but not everything, as far as we know, with the ability to change and morph into different objects and even people. But with that being said, this is taken to a different turn than in the comic books or in the movies, because in this one, Clayface's skin is actually an acidic material. It can decay any organic material that it comes across and adds it to its mass, turning it into a Cronenberg-like monstrosity. An interesting take that I haven't quite seen anybody do just yet with the character. And finally, for Volume 1's ending, we do get Scarecrow, which did kick off the next set of stories for Volume 2, which we are currently in the middle of. And that is that Scarecrow is testing, or he is the doctor at Arkham Asylum, known as Jonathan Crane, and he is testing on different patients the fear toxin. And the really curious part comes in at the end, which I will talk about in a little bit. But moving on to the Halloween special, we do get a more defined look at Arkham Asylum and the people there through the next test subject, aka Batman. That was a shocking one for me to learn later on, and we do get the idea that he is traumatized by what he saw at the asylum. We do get little bits here and here there of him being invited into Arkham, meeting Scarecrow, Clayface, and of course Killer Croc, and of course he survives at the end of the day, and the one that reveals that he sent out the footage of Bruce Wayne or Batman fighting in Arkham Asylum is Alfred, because Batman came out disturbed, seeing the worst of humanity all in one go, and he became darker, twisted, wanting to use the tools that they used on themselves, on himself, so that he can fight their evilness in their own way. And Alfred saying that turned his sense of justice into more of an animalistic sense. He's no longer Batman or Bruce Wayne anymore. He's something different. Which we then leave off with Batman attacking MOPD. And I know what you're thinking, it should be GCPD for Gotham Central Police Department. But we haven't gotten the answer to that just yet. Which Alfred himself knows is off in itself. So we leave off with Batman attacking Commissioner Gordon and hunting down the cameras. And from there we go on to Volume 2, which consists of Dr. Pyg, but the more important one is the Riddler, with the Riddler being in a comatose-like state and only able to communicate through a radio signal to the police department or whoever it is he's talking to. Now, we do get this idea that Riddler has solved something. He has seen something. He says that it's because of that something that he is the way he is. But it's not a curse, it's a gift by a big being. What that means, he leaves up to us to decipher for later videos. Before we move on, the answer to his riddle in the middle of the video is curiosity. Now, the last video is Pyg, or Professor Pyg, depending on what you go with. And that is spelled Pyg, named after Pygmalion, who is, in Greek mythology, built a woman out of clay to be the perfect person for him. And this was probably the more interesting twist on the character, turning Professor Pyg into kind of a Five Nights at Freddy's kind of mockery, or not mockery, but reference. And I would have never thought of that. It's such a funny idea that they would do this. But it makes sense overall, the way the character is portrayed, and it really does keep to the idea that Pyg is creating something. And we do get the idea that the animatronics are actually talking, where Professor Pyg himself has taken on the role of William Afton, but is in control of all the animatronics themselves, considering they attacked all the guests in one day. Now, unlike our other project for the Bat ARG, this one actually had different voice actors portraying different characters throughout the series. And I have to say, they all did really well. Especially Joker and Croc, which is played by Nicholas Joel Cranach. He did an amazing job portraying Mark Hamill twisted Joker that I almost assumed it was Mark Hamill almost for a minute. We do have Scarecrow as a Toei J Productions, who did a good job himself too. You really got this idea of a calming voice for a psychiatrist, but then having this creepier undertone. Man-Bat and Hugo Strange as Jake Bartley really did bring home the idea of a dark sadistic scientist on Strange's part. While Man-Bat, you get this idea that he was just a man trying to do good for the world, but ended up trapped in this creature. And even at the end, where we do see that found footage sort of area, we do hear this scream that's both animalistic, but has that hint of a man still trapped inside the body. A nice, terrifying idea, along with Two-Face / Harvey Dent, Gideon Quinones, who did bring the character's two different personalities to light in his portrayal of Harvey Dent. And I did like the way they kind of give him like an American Psycho kind of vibe to it. Benjamin David playing the Riddler was definitely a smart move, because you get this idea that he's an intellectual that has been deeply disturbed by something. That something just shook him to his core, and now he just believes it to his core. Yet at the same time, you have this idea that he still feels he's smarter than everyone else. That there's this bigger place for him at the end of all this. And he still keeps that smug, cocky attitude that we expect from the Riddler. And I really can admire that you depict this idea of a mentally shattered person still having this superiority complex. And last but not least, we do have Pyg, who does feel genuine. Like I said, it feels more like I guess you could say a reference to Freddy Fazbear's, and we do get that idea of him sounding kind of like a phone guy in this situation, where he is already set on his way. He knows what he's doing, and he knows how he's going to do it. It's just he has to go do it now, and he doesn't know how people are going to react to it, or even if they are willing to react to it. So he has this voice that just says, I am committed to this action I'm about to take, even though we don't really know what it was. And that in itself is kind of off-putting, isn't it? But the highlight out of it all, I have to say, was Nicholas Joel Kranich as Croc, because he put something that no one has done for Croc in any of the games or any of the shows or any of the movies. And that is giving him that southern accent, that deep, groggly accent that makes him sound like an actual Croc, but at the same time remembers that he, in his backstory, he's from the deep south, that he has this background of being from the south. And you get that idea with the way he speaks, the tone he gives, and again, that groggly kind of undertone to his voice that really shows this feels like it's a human crocodile. It's creepy, it's off-putting, and very well done and comic accurate, more than I've seen anybody done before. The images and videos used are fine. I do think that they do have a creepy undertone to them, and I do think that there is a lot to be desired for certain ones, like in the Halloween one, but they do achieve what it set out to do, give you an idea what these people or characters look like in real life. The most haunting ones are, of course, like I said, the Man-Bat video at the end of his videotape, and Clayface, the images of him basically just decaying. Those are the more haunting body horror kind of style I can think of at this time, and really shows how the progression of the characters are actually going. It's not like it's happening within a day. This is happening in a slow process. So the imagery in that really does deliver what the Arkham tapes could really push forward later on. And there are so many other ways you can depict this later in the storyline. Right, now that I've reviewed the series itself, let's talk about the theories and the hidden side of it, shall we? Now, this is the part that I really find interesting. And as you know from my last video, the Bats analog horror, I want to talk about who the narrator is in this scenario and who's putting out these videos. Well, we already got the answer to half of it, and the one putting these together are the staff at Arkham, Hugo Strange, and James Gordon, along with Alfred. They pretty much explicitly say that these are training tapes and or collected data to help further on with their scientific needs, along with Alfred revealing that this was him worried about Batman. But that doesn't answer the second half of my question. Who's putting these out? Because if they're training tapes, they're not meant to be for the public, they're meant for the staff of Arkham. Alfred gave this to Commissioner Gordon. So that leads me to think there's an outside source releasing these videotapes to the public. Now, there are several people it could be. It could be Alfred trying to get help. It could be the staff of Arkham Asylum finding out that what they're working for is insanity. But that's impossible. We already know it closed down shortly after all the Riddler or the Scarecrow stuff happened. So, who is it that's collecting this data? We know it's not Batman. He's more animalistic at this point. Which leads me to my theory that it has to be Barbara Gordon. Because we do know Commissioner Gordon's here. We just don't know if the Robins or Batgirls or Huntresses are actually involved. My theory is that Barbara Gordon notices a change in Commissioner Gordon, her father, because there is something off about him in the Halloween tape. There's something off about the whole GCPD. They suddenly changed their name, and even Alfred seems confused, like it just recently happened. So my theory is that Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, knows something was off with her father, with Batman, with Gotham in general. And she wants to document it. She wants to know what's happening. She found it. And she is sending it out to the people to know that something is wrong. That there's something under the city or under Arkham that is coming. And that she, and along with maybe several others, are aware of it. Now, that's just my speculation. But we haven't really seen Barbara Gordon. But then again, we haven't seen a lot of characters. It could be Vicky Vale, because we have seen her around a couple times. Jack Ryder, we just barely got notice of him, but he feels more like he is a sillier side of the news, more like a Geraldo kind of character. Plus, I do feel he's going to come back in later on as another character, but we'll talk about that in a second, shall we? Now, as I just mentioned, There's a dark happening in Gotham. Well, big shocker there, it's Gotham. Nothing good happens in Gotham. If it were me, I would have moved already. I don't care if the Arkham Asylum's paying $500,000 a year. It's not worth the risk. Anyway, it seems to me that the most important video that's happened in this series is probably that of the Scarecrow story. Because that we have Dr. Crane testing on a man, a patient there, trying to help him overcome his fears. Well, trying to surpass his fears at least. And from there we get that he's been torturing this man, that he is sending weird visions to him. And we get this video of this man just running through Arkham Asylum, running from something. And we do get one of the cooler depictions with the plague mask of the Scarecrow. And I do admit that it's a fun image in itself, but that's not what we're getting at. When he does get to this kind of spiral staircase leading downwards into a hole, we do at the end see that a creature crawls out of it. Now, some would just say that this is just the fear toxin finally taking his mind, but we're watching this through a camera. We wouldn't be able to see that happening. We'd be able to see nothing and just hear him being terrified of something coming out. So that means that something is down there, something dark, something smoky is down there terrorizing the patients of Arkham Asylum. And I do believe that we saw that in the, well, Batman saw that in the Halloween special, because Alfred mentions briefly that Crane said that he unlocked the gates to hell or to some other dimension. And at first people didn't take it seriously. They thought it was just him being dramatic. But then we do get this idea that Bruce Wayne saw something down there. He saw something that shocked him. He's claiming he just saw the evil of man, but we think we saw more that made him want and crave the power. And so much so that even Alfred destroyed all the footage besides the two or three we've seen of him fighting Croc, the video call with Joker, along with the view of Scarecrow talking to him, quoting Edgar Allan Poe poems, which I would prefer him doing the story of Arkham more than anything, but I digress. We do get this idea that there is some darker presence down there, which again is revealed with Riddler. Riddler does say that he tracked down something down there. He saw something and believes that this something is coming for Gotham. Now, this is related to kind of this idea that the mystical side of Gotham is starting to pour out. So, that leads us to our next topic. The important video of the series, right next to Scarecrow, because this one really sets up what the overarching story is and what's been going on over time. And that is the Riddler video. Riddler in this universe is different than we've seen before. Well, not if you've seen the animated series, where he is a game developer and he has discovered or created the Enigma box, which is a video game box that lets you explore into different realities or just play video games with your friends, kind of like an Xbox mixed with a PlayStation. An interesting idea, and we've seen it before, but that's not what's important. In this, we see that Riddler is in a comatose-like state, still very much present, but at the same time, he is more lucid. He could talk, but more through a radio station than anything else, kind of like a ghost, like EMP kind of thing. But he's still very much cognitive. And this, he brings up the name Carcosa. And Carcosa is sort of this Eldritch-like area, a kingdom that has both a mysterious and ancient background that is described as kind of like an Atlantis kind of area, but more for an H.P. Lovecraft thing. And he goes in further into this, not just making it a name thrown out, by saying, do you know the color yellow is one of the most important colors, which then again brings us to the King in Yellow, who is said to pretty much rule over Carcosa. and is known throughout many writers like H.P. Lovecraft of being this bigger being. Where he is in the story, I couldn't tell you. It's not really a Batman thing other than the idea that Arkham is both a Batman and H.P. Lovecraft creation. Well, more H.P. Lovecraft originally, anyway. So, to dig more into this, from the original story of the King in Yellow, we do get the song or the poem constantly said by a narrator promoting the Enigma box. So that just shows that this King in Yellow is going to be some sort of bigger bad in the storyline. And we do see this kind of happening later on with several characters referring to something bigger happening. And could that be the big thing happening? Could Arkham, or even just Gotham in general, be Carcosa? Because Carcosa, just like Atlantis, went missing, or is said to be somewhere maybe in space, maybe in the sea, but maybe in this reality, it was originally Gotham. So that's an interesting take on it, in a sense like that. Especially since Arkham, again an H.P. Lovecraft creation, is right at the outside of it. And we do see that there is so much more going on in this world. Including Batman knows it too. So this leads us to our main theory, or our second to last part of this. What does this mean for this universe? Has the series been about the King in Yellow since the beginning? Or about this Lovecraftian demigod or whatever? And the answer is, yeah, it has. Joker in the first video even admits that he's not human anymore, that he's a god. And taking that as reference to both the Cthulhu storyline, but more importantly, The Doom That Came to Gotham, the film and comic book that DC put out, putting Batman against Cthulhu, we do know that there is a storyline where the Joker is an immortal being compared to everybody else. That he, along with the upper crust of Gotham, have continued to build upon this legacy of Lovecraftian creatures. And in this story, we can tell that the Joker has pretty much been this harbinger of Cthulhu, or the Man in Yellow. And the rest of the characters, we can really see that this is the direction that it has been and is still going to since the beginning. Like Croc's video, at the end of his video, we do see that there is somebody running from him. But they're running from him in a weird area. We assume it's like a zoo, but it feels more like a catacomb, deep underground. Which leads me to believe that maybe Killer Croc is kind of like this guard dog for the portal that they have opened beneath Arkham Asylum. Hugo Strange has been doing this to people, that he has been building an army of creatures to help fight alongside his master, whoever it may be, the King in Yellow or whatever else is down there, with giving Jonathan Crane the okay to make them sort of immune to fear, or being able to kind of take fear in. Because the main thing in Cthulhu's storyline, if you stare into his face, you'll be driven to madness. You can't be driven to madness if you're not afraid of it. And at the same time, creating creatures that are anti-fear and willing to work for them. Batman must have seen this. He saw that there were creatures like that, like the Man-Bat, and tried to become something himself using the Man-Bat formula that we did see in the Arkham tapes shorts. He took the Man-Bat formula, but also infused cybernetics into himself, making himself the Hellbat. Again, a Doom That Came to Gotham kind of thing, but more deranged, more not controllable, not in control of himself. He's willing to fight, and we don't know exactly how or why he's doing this to himself. But we do see all the characters are either becoming mindless creatures, or they're trying to gain some sort of sense of immortality. We do know that Hugo Strange and maybe Edward Nygma, are aware that this is something, the King in Yellow is coming back, and they want to be at his side, to be his right-hand men, so that they can earn some sort of place amongst him. Because even in the shorts for the Arkham tapes, it does say that Edward Nygma is working for his master. They don't know who it is, but they know that's his main plan overall. So that pretty much leads us to what comes next. And for that, let's move on, shall we? A lot can be said for what's coming. A lot of villains could be coming. A lot of heroes could be coming. We do know that there are certain allies to Batman in this universe. There might be Robins. We do get that from the shorts, that there is a Robin at least. And like I said, we don't know if there's a Barbara Gordon, who is a Batgirl in this world, but we could definitely tell that maybe she's in the background working on this. Again, I still do think that she's the one putting out these videotapes, but you could also argue that maybe it's also Tim Drake or Dick Grayson doing it. If anything, it would be Tim Drake. But I digress in that factor. We also see that there are several plans for different characters to come in, a lot of whom I would like to think is Mad Hatter, who may have seen into this portal that Scarecrow has opened up, and maybe he will tell the viewer what's happening in a storybook-like phase. That'd be interesting, I think. Kind of like doing a children's tale in a twisted, elder rich kind of style, something like that. Or we also got Jack Ryder, who might come in as the Creeper, driven to madness, created another personality through Hugo Strange's formula. But this one's a little more outrageous and not as volatile as Two-Face. We do have a whole list of other characters that we can go back and relate to this idea of a Cthulhu, the Man in Yellow style characteristics. But who will be the one to save Gotham, if there is saving it? Well, that's a hard one to say, honestly. We could try Batman, but it seems his mind's gone. We could say Barbara or any of the Robins. But my stomach is telling me that it will have something to do with Harley Quinn ending up being our main protagonist throughout the rest of the series. Well, maybe not the rest of the series, but at the end. Because that just feels like an H.P. Lovecraft twist. That it would be somebody on the inside seeing everything happening and being the one to stop it. Which leads me to believe it might be Harley Quinn, not just seeing what's happening, being horrified by it, but may ultimately, at the end of the day, be the one to stop it. That's just my theory on the matter, and who knows what will come next. But I'm here for the ride, and it's pretty fun, all in all. Alright, with all that being said, for the most part, the story we've gone through is very interesting, very complex, and very different than what we've seen for Batman analogs so far. We also know that there are many twists and turns and reaching into classic literature, at the same time allowing some wiggle room for the Batman mythos to actually expand upon itself, make it more real, rely on horror rather than comic book tropes. All this is very interesting, and I do agree that there is a lot that can be said, a lot of stories that can be told, and I do think that the in-references, the pop culture references, everything including referencing the original comic books, such as we've seen with Joker's main inmate name being his first appearance in comics, and the Arkham tapes themselves actually just being a reference to the Arkham games, which do consist of small little segments where you can learn a little bit or different stories about the characters throughout the game through the achievements of the Riddler trophies. And if you don't believe that that is where this Joker came from, look up why Jason Todd is tracking down the Joker in the Arkham Knight game. It's very dark, and you could definitely see the connections to this. Either way, this is very well done. The voice acting has been top notch. I can't really complain about it. Feels almost like the Batman animated series mixed with the Arkham series, and it does so well to make this realistic vibe to it that keeps you wanting to come back for more. I can't wait for more. I'm excited to see what happens next and see what characters come in. Maybe we'll get Clock King, Mad Hatter, Harley Quinn. Who knows? But at the end of the day, it's just going to be something that's going to be worth the ride. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I did. I know I went on and on for a little bit, but this was a lot of information I wanted to cover, and a lot of theories I wanted to talk about. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe down below. I'd really appreciate it. Maybe I'll do an ARG later on in the future. Let me know if there's one you want me to talk about, whether it be new, old, maybe Marble Hornets, maybe Everyman Hybrid, stuff like that, or maybe even a video game. Just let me know, yeah? Anyway, see you guys next time. See ya.